There was recently a post on a fountain pen site that had a picture of a pen that looked like this, a little bit like this. It was actually this this one, actually. Never mind, this one. And the post said, "I'm looking for a vintage fountain pen. I am now the owner of a Pilot Custom 743 SF." And I don't know what that is, but it's presumably a modern fountain pen. "I wanted to ask if there's an expert who knows how to find me a source that is the same as the above model." And the above model or is a antique pen digger writing instrument. It's a Waterman 52 with gold fill trim. And there's a picture of the pen, various places, and various views of the pen. And my response was essentially, I got a million of them. And I didn't think he need pay $350 for a pen. And then, so I said, well, I have a bunch. And he said, as long as it looks like the pen pictured. Well, the pen pictured was in beautiful shape. And I think I was misled thinking that he was interested in the pen to use and to draw with, or to do calligraphy with, or to write with. And I don't know what the person was thinking when they priced that pen, but every dealer, including myself, has a little pie chart in their head. Can we, a pen that doesn't work like that one. Here's the pie chart, and the price of the pen is here, and how do you divide it up? It's divided up by, let's say, how much you paid for it, the condition that the pen is in, the size of the pen, the rarity of the pen, the point, the nib that it has, whether it's restored or repaired or not. All of these things are important to someone when they're buying a pen and when they're selling a pen. And if you're selling a pen to a typical collector, the typical collector is interested in a number of things, but they're mainly interested in condition and maybe rarity. And so they'll pay, most of their money that they're gonna, here's the dollar bill that they're spending. Here's the pen that's being sold. Here's the money that they're spending. They are probably spending most of their money on the condition and the rarity. They probably could care less about the nib because they're not going to use it. They're going to put the pen in a glass case or a zippered case, and they're going to look at it once a year when they go to a pen show, or once a month, or whatever. They're not going to fill it with ink. They're not going to use it. And the point could be a very firm nib, or it could be a very flexible nib, and they don't care. There's another person. This is the collector. Now I'm making generalizations here. There's the user, and sometimes they overlap. There's a bit that can overlap here, but a user, with their money, they're going to buy a pen that the most amount of interest for them is probably the nib. All the rest of the things are secondary, the rarity, the condition, but it's the nib that they're interested in. So the pen in question in this listing and it was $350. It was a pen just like this. It's a relatively rare Waterman. They didn't make that many smooth, hard rubber pens with gold fill trim. And this was in really, really beautiful shape. So if I had that pen, and if I was charging $350 for it, for me, the pie chart would, the nib is insignificant. If it had a really nice nib on it, I'd probably take the really nice nib out and put a very boring nib in it. It would be the correct nib. It would be the nib that belongs in that model of pen from that year, but I would put in it a pen nib that wasn't sexy. And they're paying the biggest amount of the $350, they're paying on the condition for this pen and the rarity of that model. So let's just talk about the user here. Now, there are users that want the pen to look pretty. You know, let's say I bought a car, and let's say, and I've owned one brand new car in my life. All the rest of the cars have been secondhand, and I don't really care what they look like. I want them to work, but they can have rust on it. They can have a little ding on it. They can have, I don't care. I want to put the key in, I want it to start, and I want it to go where I want it to go, and I'll come back. So if it has all of its parts, its wheels are all there, and the motor works, I'm happy with it. I can have a ding or a scratch or a dent, and I don't care. I honestly don't care. So if I'm able to buy a car that for thousands of dollars less because it has a scratch in it, I'm happy. Because if I end up getting another scratch in it, I won't get pissed off, for one thing. So used items that look like they're used doesn't bother me. It might bother you. You might want, your vintage China service not to have any chips in it. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're going to pay a lot of money for the chipless China service. And you'll pay a lot of money or more money. The pie chart here, the fancier and the more beautiful condition a pen is, you're going to just be adding dollar sign upon dollar sign upon dollar sign, because every one of those things costs more. Another thing that costs more, again, for a user, let's just talk about a user. So if you want a pen that works, if you want a car that works, you want the engine to run, and you want it to have all its wheels. And if you live in the cold, you want the heater to work. And if you may require more things than just a car that will turn on and go. You might want the radio to work, etc. So in your case, the user, you want the pen to function. You want the pen to have a nib that works. You want the ink to be delivered. You want the pen not to skip and not to bleed and not to drop ink. You may want to have a clip on it so you can put it in your pocket. Some people don't care. They draw or they write at their desk. They don't care that it has a clip. And I've sold many pens that are missing clips to people, and they're happy with them because they don't pay as much money and they're using the pen at home anyway. So another thing that will cost bigger dollar signs is a bigger pen. Even if they're not particularly rare, a big pen will cost more money. This is a Waterman 58, which means it has a number 8 size nib on the front, not a number 2 size. And this is significantly more expensive than this pen. It will not write any differently. I cannot write a more pretty letter, or draw a prettier picture with this nib. The nib is really nice because I bought it with a nice nib. I was paying in my pie chart that when I bought this pen. So I told someone how much I paid for it, and he said, "Well, you overpaid." And I said, "Thank you very much for telling me that." No, I bought it because of this, because the nib was really, really nice on it to me at the time. It was really, really fine, really, really flexible. It's not any more flexible than this one, but for some reason I wanted a big pen. So I paid a lot for this pen because of that nib, a lot more than I maybe should have paid. Another way to make a pen expensive is to cover it with sterling silver. It's the same pen as this, same nib as this, essentially. But it has sterling overlay, and it cost more when it was made, cost more in the collector world, because they're rarer and they're, quote, prettier. And then you can make it even fancier if you want by going with a gold overlay. And not just any gold overlay, you can have it 14 karat gold, which is what this one is. So this is more expensive than this. This is more expensive than this. They all write the same. So if you want a pen to write with and you're on a limited budget, put these back in the slots. Let someone else buy those. The person that's never going to use them can buy that one. And look for a pen, plain black pen. Maybe it's missing its clip. And it has a really nice nib. I could take this nib out and put it in here, and it would be a perfectly usable pen. And you'll do well if what you want a pen for is to use. If you want a pen to impress someone at the bank when you're taking out your loan, or who else do you want to impress? Your prospective wife or her father, your prospective father-in-law. You buy a big pen that has gold overlay, and all of your dollars will be spent in impressing someone. It won't make your drawing or your words or anything any better. You don't need the fancy gold to make a fancier drawing. It doesn't work that way. And it may get in the way. Let's say I had a Ferrari instead of a secondhand Volkswagen. Let's say I had a Ferrari and I wanted to go to the grocery store. I would be scared to death to go to the grocery store in my Ferrari because I would be afraid someone would bump into it. So I leave it at home. I'll walk. Well, what use is that car to me if I'm afraid to use it? This pen is in absolutely beautiful shape. I'd use this at home, but I would never carry this in my pocket because I bump into things and I could trip and I could be robbed. So I'll leave it at home. This one I can carry with me and draw out in the field or go on vacation to the beach or the mountains or the big city with this pen. This one I would be, I might get mugged. The mugger would say, "Give me your money. Do you have any fountain pens? Give me your fountain pens." So now, this is how I sell a pen. Here's my pie chart, and here's how much I'm charging for the pen. Most of the time, a pen that I'm selling to someone that's using the pen, a good half of it, if not sometimes more than half, is the kind of nib I put in it. And I value, when I look at a pen, I pay attention to the nib. Some people don't pay attention to the nib. Some dealers are selling to other collectors and they're selling the gold and the bric-a-brac. They don't even know what the nib is like. And they might have a nib that I might be more than happy to spend $100 on. And they might have it in a pen that they're selling for $30 because they don't value this. They're only looking at the hard rubber pen that's missing a clip and has teeth marks on it. Yes, it has a gold nib, and I'm charging $20 for that. The rest is $10. Here's $30. Buy this pen from me. Well, and I'm hoping that that's what they're going to charge when I ask how much it is. But when a pen salesman looks at the nib, I think, oh fuck, I'm screwed. They're going to notice that it's really, really a nice nib. And they might say it's $130, not $30, because of this really nice nib. And sometimes I will pay $130 for a pen because of its $100 nib to me. So I look at a nib and I put a great deal of value on the nib. Now, as the pen gets fancier and bigger and more rare, I can't help but add dollar signs here, and eventually the proportional value of the nib becomes less and less. And a pen like this, if I were to sell this pen tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, I would take this nib out and put a perfectly legitimate nib in it that isn't sexy. This nib by itself in a nothing pen, is this $100 nib in my estimation? It might be. I've sold pens with nibs that are beautiful for $100, and $93 of the pen value is in the nib. So if you're looking for a sexy nib, you can look through this dealer's stuff and see if you can find one. If you want someone to do the work to find a sexy nib for you, then you find someone like me. Now, maybe you just want a pen that is functional, that has a perfectly good nib. Maybe it's not very sexy. It's not as sexy as a nib can be. But if you want a good working pen that has the nib that I decide is the right for you, I'm happy to provide you one. It might be a $40 pen. It might be a $400 pen. I don't know where it's going to end up. Some people that I sell pens to are left-handed and they want a pen that's very smooth. And normally that does not mean a flexible nib. It doesn't mean a really fine nib. So in many ways, it's easier for me to find a nib that they'll like, that I won't feel sad about it leaving me, because the nibs I like are selected for calligraphers because I'm a calligrapher, and for artists because I draw. I understand what they want. So again, the point of this story, this entire 20-minute video, is if you want a pen to use, The most important thing that I think you should think about is what the nib is like. And 75% of the cost of the pen should be the nib. You know, the rest of it, unless you're trying to impress your father-in-law to be, can be plain, it can be black, it can have a missing clip, it can have teeth marks, it can have a name. It's not going to interfere with how the pen writes. So this is the important part. Most of the pens that I have for sale, if I was at a pen show, the average price on my table for a pen might be $50. The average price of the person sitting next to me that has very, very fancy pens might be $500. All of our pens will work the same. If you want to spend $500 on a pen, you'll get one that it's made of gold or sterling silver or is big or is in beautiful condition. That's not going to make you draw or calligraph any better than getting a pen that doesn't have hundreds of dollars added to it because of its rarity and its condition. There are, however, rare nibs. There are, however, very rare or very beautiful, very expressive nibs that cost more because they're rare. And I'll certainly charge more for them. This person might charge more for them. It's hard to know. Again, if this person is only selling pens that are so rare and so expensive that a collector would only put them in their safety deposit box and never use them, he probably doesn't care what the nibs are like. He might not ever even look at the nibs. He'll want them to work and be correct, but he's not selling them as a user for the pen to be used. I'm selling almost all the pens I sell are to be used, and I plan accordingly, and I spend the hours finding the pen that I can sell to a user, selling the pen to the user. Buying a pen from me is not easy. You don't just add to shopping cart. I make you work. You have to send me a sample of your writing. You have to show me a picture of what your hand looks like as you're holding the pen. Some people hold the pen like this. Some people hold it like this. I don't know how they possibly can even write vertically like that, but I see people do it. And I'm not going to sell a certain kind of a pen to this person. Because it won't work for them. So certain pens I will not sell to a lefty. I really want to buy that pen. No, you're not going to buy it from me. If they write like this, they're not going to get this nib because they're going to break it. And if they don't break it, they're going to return it to me and say, why is it scratchy? Well, because you hold the pen the way you do. If you want me to sell you a pen that you can use, I'll sell you this one. So there's a little bit of work that you have to do to make me feel comfortable selling you a pen that I know that you're gonna like. I can sell you lots of pens, but I want you to like them. I want you to like them and to use them. And so that's what I'm about. And hopefully I'm not scaring you away. from buying pens from me because I have pens I want to sell. I have pens I need to sell. I've got bills to pay. And my normal job as of designing invitations during the years of COVID here has just completely stopped. So my income is going to require this, selling a pen like this to someone like you. May not be this pen, might be. I might decide it's time to sell this pen. This has a really sexy nib though. So here's the pie chart. The cost of this pen is going to be like this much is going to be the nib. This stuff is pretty fancy too, so this is just going to be expensive. But I don't want to sell you an expensive pen if you're happy with a cheaper one. So, and most people are happy with a cheaper one. So anyway, I hope that this helps. The person that wanted this pen, I hope you find one. If you want a smooth, black, hard rubber pen in perfect shape with gold fill trim, you might find one for $350. You might find one for $250. You might find one for $175. But if you want a pen to write with, you can get one that writes just like that one, maybe for $70. Good luck.